Hello again guys, and welcome back to another big old Devlin video and another pugilism video. This video is our second reading from The Art of Boxing by Daniel Mendoza. First video was reading the preface and also explaining where we're going to be really going with this. And so any of you who've watched that video will know roughly the direction where I'm taking these videos. After this particular one, I will be doing one last reading where I'll be reading to you the golden rules that Mendoza states. Those golden rules covering the basics of offense and defense. And he really touches upon it in this chapter that I'm going to be reading you, also called Boxing. It's a very short chapter, and from here the book then goes on into telling you drills and practices that you should be employing within your fighting technique. I do, however, feel that instead of reading this to you in a very monotone, boring way, it is better to, in fact, of course, demonstrate it to you. So I'll be working on demonstration videos as soon as I get my sister over to act as my opposition, if you wish. However, if that takes time to sort out and organise and to film, I will still be doing fighter focuses, so I'll be introducing to you fighters that have existed over pugilism history, and we'll be sharing with you their fight records and interesting facts. And I'll also be sharing fight footage with you also, many of which I've actually got colorized. I think you'll be quite happy with the quality of the content. Anyway guys, without further ado, let's move on to our reading of the chapter, simply stated as boxing. The first principle to be established in boxing is to be perfectly master of the equilibrium of the body, so as to be able to change from a right to left-handed position, to advance or to retreat, striking or parrying, and to throw the body either forwards or backwards without difficulty or embarrassment. The second principle to be established is the position of the body, which should be in an inclining posture or diagonal line, so as to place the pit of the stomach out of your adversary's reach. The upper part of your arm must stop or parry the round blow at the head. The forearm, the blows at the face and stomach, and the elbows, those at the ribs. Both knees must be bent, the left leg advanced, and the arms directly before your throat or chin. It must be an invariable rule to stop or parry your adversary's right with your left, and his left with your right, and both in striking and parrying, always to keep your stomach guarded by barring it with your right or left forearm. It is always better to avoid a blow by throwing the head and body backwards, at the same time covering the pit of the stomach, than to attempt to parry it. Both hands must never be up or down at the same time. If your adversary strikes either to your face, stomach or side with his left hand, parry or stop with your right, covering your stomach with your left. If he strikes with his right, let your left oppose it, covering your stomach with your right. It is proper to exercise the scholar in changing both arms and legs from alternate positions of the right-handed to the left-handed, and to make him a master of the equilibrium of the body, advancing and retreating. And that's the end of that chapter, guys. So a very short reading for you, but regardless, a very important one. In fact, perhaps the most important reading I will be doing for you, as it really begins to touch upon what Mendoza will be stating in our next reading as the golden rules of fighting. He stipulates in here certain key things that you must do, and to be honest, as a fighter myself, I can tell you for certain if you were to only do what he says in this short reading whilst you're fighting, then you'll actually do quite well indeed. The first thing that he stated in this particular reading was the importance of essentially being almost ambidextrous in fighting. That is, not being fully ambidextrous, but being confident enough to fight both in a standard orthodox stance and also a southpaw stance. And I can personally attest to how useful this is in my own fighting experience. When I have used it in the past, it is a great way of switching around both your defense and offense, and it's a great way to opening your opponent and giving you fresh angles to attack from. And this becomes even more paramount in old pugilistic fighting because, of course, the extent of which grappling and wrestling was used. and changing the position of your feet from a southpaw to an orthodox or vice versa is a great way to help maintain your balance, whilst of course throwing your opponent off balance also. Mendoza also clearly states how he believes a punch should be defended against, and in fact even states the priority in which you should try to defend yourself, stating clearly that the most important way to defend yourself is simply not to get hit to start off with, and so evasion, head movement, so on and so forth is the first line of defense. However, Mendoza is a realist and understands that head movement and mobility and evasion is simply not enough. Sooner or later you will get hit, in which case he then stipulates that parrying of course is the next level of defense, and after that of course blocking. In fact, parrying is your first line of defense against what he describes as a round blow to the head. That's a hook to you and me, guys. So if your opponent is trying to hook you into the head and you can't get out the way of it, then a parry is to be used instead. Failing that, blocking it with the upper arm, which is in essence the shoulder. If instead, however, the opponent is essentially throwing a straight at either your head or your stomach, then the preferable defense in this case would instead be a deflection with the forearm. And then to finalize, lower blows towards the ribs should be blocked instead with the elbows. And lastly, Mendoza finishes his chapter with an interesting statement that you should never protect either your head or your body completely with both hands at the same time. In essence, you should always use one hand to protect your head and one hand to protect your body. And as we'll go through the drills and the movements that he teaches in his lessons, you'll also see that when you do throw a punch, for example, you always keep one hand back, normally protecting the body from Mendoza's perspective, because of course within pugilism the body was the primary target. Well, cheers for watching, guys, and I hope to see you on our next video. In the meantime, ta-ta.